know you're doing this to me. What did I do?
I'm calling you.
What did I do? Ow, what did I do? What did I do?
It's Pot Talk 2013, starring Joe Barton. Also starring Paula Gloria. And now from the palatial and fully functional studios of Channel 23, it's time for tonight's Pot Talk.
Wow. How you doing out there in television land?
Hello from the palace.
I'd like to start this off. Originally, we always take a stand here for the marijuana prisoners. We have so many people in jail. We've been saying it over and over and over, and nobody seems to be doing much about it. Why are so many of our brothers, sisters, children sitting in jail for marijuana when our government knows that marijuana causes no harmful side effects? In spite of what they've been telling you, they know the truth. They have 9 patents on marijuana for medical use, yet they keep it in Schedule 1, which says it has no medical value. That's just proof that the government lies to you. And the government's been lying to you about everything, just about everything that they've told you, they've been lying to you. We've done shows on fracking. We've done shows on so many different subjects that prove that they've been lying to you. We've brought the proof, and the people such as Rod Class, Constitution Man, we've put them on this television to show you people the truth. And yet it seems like none of you people out there are getting involved. And if you don't get involved, it's only going to get worse.
Get involved or get depressed.
Right. Do we have that DVD ready to go?
In a couple of minutes.
Okay. Tonight, when we were coming back from the Ellenville area, I noticed over Woodstock all kinds of chemtrails. There were jets laying down chemtrails. Thick clouds were hanging down over Woodstock. And when we were over on 209, it was moving west from Woodstock. And we got pictures. Unfortunately, the pictures that I took that showed the big chemtrails that were over Woodstock, for some reason we didn't get it on the camera. But the second set of pictures that I tried to take of some of the other chemtrails, we got them, and we're going to play them for you when Felicia has it ready. You just let me know, Felicia.
Before we go to the chemtrail thing, I just wanted to say something. Joe always starts the show saying, we want to remember our brothers and sisters and family and all the people, the nonviolent people who created no crime at all and yet for the sake of profit are in jail. So now the argument about marijuana being safe and why you wouldn't want it unregulated, think very carefully about this. Wouldn't the free market just let the best product naturally rise to the surface? People said, one person who was arguing for the legalization argument and the regulation argument, saying that, oh, unscrupulous people will put additives in, to make it real addictive pot or something. But really, if people are liking something, how could you enhance something like a plant, a simple plant? And if you had if you had real connoisseurs, then wouldn't this be where you would feel the most safe? Joe's going to show you something now on chemtrails. These agencies that you trust to take care of you, are they really doing that?
Okay, you can run that now. If you, it's only a 3-minute. These are chemtrails we're taking pictures of here.
That one's in process right now.
Yeah.
And then that one is moving too. So it really looks like it's...
They're crossing each other. Yeah, that's what they do.
And there's the newish moon, so you can figure out the date.
And we're
The
getting
sun is setting over
a
there.
new one there. They're putting another one up.
Now, is that going to, over time,
And then there's one up here.
is it going to get as big as that one?
And then I got this big long one. And look, there's one that goes across it. But look how long this one goes.
Where is this area where we're at? What do we call this place? You got to show some trees to get a context.
We're on 209. Well,
We get some trees like this to get context so people know where the location is.
and there's another one up here. And there's a jet making one right there. Right there.
See that one?
And then there's,
See
look
the
at the
plane?
ones, look at the ones going across the mountain there, top of the mountain.
And that one coming straight, that's huge.
Right. And this cloud that you're seeing here is not like a normal cloud. That's a chemtrail cloud. And now we got this one making one and going across. And then we got that other one going that way.
Can you get the moon? Just to... I guess. Do you have it zoomed out as far as possible?
Yeah.
No, I guess you can't get the moon.
And there you have it, folks. Now, some of the better ones, not better because they're evil, but some of the bigger ones that were up over Woodstock, I had tried to get with the camera earlier, and for some reason, it didn't get recorded. But there were very big ones that...
No,
you
it did. I just didn't get it on the DVD.
Oh, you...
Next week we might have
Okay,
it.
next week we can show it. But there were two huge, you see the one that was dispersing and it was very wide? There were two huge ones just hanging low over Woodstock that I got. And that's our government spraying stuff all over Ulster County. We were on 209 just before the state police filming in the direction of Woodstock. That was what you were seeing there. We were filming across the highway. We were coming towards Kingston on 209 a little bit before the state police, and those pictures you were seeing were over in the direction of Woodstock, and there was more to the right of where those pictures were, that was directly over Woodstock, and there was a very low hanging that very wide spread out one. There was two of them right over Woodstock. So right around dusk, just before it was starting to get dark, they were spraying Ulster County with chemtrails, and you people out there, they're poisoning you from the air, and it's time for you to wake up and start checking in. We want to know why they're doing this, who's doing this.
Is it ethical?
Right. Is it ethical, she says. Obviously, it's not ethical.
Well, first we need to know what they're doing, what's really going on.
Well, if you go on the internet, there's a whole lot of stuff about chemtrails. I would advise you people to look up all the chemtrails on the internet. You'll get a lot more information than I'm giving you right now. I've read it, but I'm not an authority on it.
But maybe the internet isn't the best place to go either.
Well, there's a lot of really good stuff on the internet that I've actually seen on chemtrails. It can be found there.
Do you know what they are, Randy?
What the
Chemtrails?
chemtrails are? Well, I know what the theories behind them are. And what you got on the video recording definitely fit the bill of the wide, silverish-looking trails coming out of the two sides of the jet. And a lot of people are saying that that's an aluminum byproduct or pulverized aluminum, and that the goal is the sinister goal is to reflect a lot of the sun's rays back into space to try to eliminate the carbon effects of global warming.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
What about air rights?
I don't buy that.
Well,
How do
that's
you
one of the
solve
things you're
problems
saying.
in law? How do you solve the problem in court? How do you get standing on this?
I don't know if
I
you
don't
do.
know. I don't know. It takes people with more knowledge than us, but I don't like what they're doing. I was reading about it, and watching it on one of the things, and some people who had much more scientific knowledge than me were talking about the chemicals, and they were showing like a spidery web substance that came down from those, and they took it and analyzed it, and I forget the chemicals they told me that were in it, or that they said that were in it, but the scientific people who were doing this were saying how bad it is and how it fucks up things. I'm not an authority on chemtrails. I'm more into marijuana legalization and stuff like that. And now I'm learning about the smart meters that the Truth Squad have been talking about, and I would advise all you people out there to come, what is it, the 19th?
Of April.
That's this Friday.
Right.
Here at the community center. You people should come and learn about these things. And
And you can only see the movie by coming to the community center, because Channel 23 does not have the rights to show Take Back Your Power. So the only way you're going to see that movie is at the community center at 7 o'clock.
Why doesn't Channel 23 have the rights to show that? The people
I don't know
didn't, the people didn't want it shown?
No. The issue is in the contract that the people from the True Squad have with the makers of the movie. So they just don't have the rights to show it, so neither do we.
That's interesting.
But anyway, you people out there should come to this. And then again, there's the Gary Knoll. We want to do the Gary Knoll. Go ahead, Randy, you can do it.
That's the 27th of April, again at 7 p.m. Gary will be debuting for Woodstock and showing one of the last theater showings that he's doing, and live appearances regarding Seeds of Death, which is trying to organize the fight against genetically modified organisms, first to label them and then to get rid of them by the public's freedom of choice. So that's at 7 o'clock on the 27th at the Woodstock Community Center. Gary will be here live, and he's looking forward to it, and so are we. By the way, how do
Felicia
I look
must be
in black
doing-
and white?
Yeah, nice. I was just saying Felicia must be doing some great lower thirds because that whole rap was on us.
That's okay.
Well, the black and white camera I'm on here is the brand new Channel 23 Retro Cam, and I have my poodle skirt and knee socks on, and I'm back in the 50s over here.
No,
so.
I liked your socks. I was noticing those today.
Well, that's a different pair of socks. That's to keep my feetsies warm, so they don't go crack again.
Okay, you want to read your letter?
Okay. This is my letter to the Woodstock Ethics Board, to Terry Reynolds, 45 Cameo Drive, Woodstock, New York, 12498. That's the zip code. Dear Terry Reynolds, I would like to serve on the Ethics Board, whose duties are as follows. Duties: The Ethics Board of the Town of Woodstock consists of 5 members appointed by the Town Board for staggered terms of 3 years. No more than 2 members of the Ethics Board may be of the same political party, and no more than 1 member may be an appointed officer or employee of the town. That's for
They
obvious
shouldn't even
reasons.
have a member or an officer of the town. How can you have an ethics board regulate the town when one of the members is a member of him?
That's what I
It's so
always loved.
crazy.
I always
Keep
loved
reading.
the
I'm sorry.
purity and the innocence of
sorry,
your
I shouldn't
vision. I
interrupt it.
love this man. No, because I was seeing another nuance there. But yeah, you're right. Okay, the board elects a chairperson from among its members. The Ethics Board was established pursuant to Local Law Number 1 of the year 2000 for ethics and the Ethics and Disclosure Law of the Town of Woodstock to administer and enforce the provisions of that local law. The purpose of the ethics law are to establish standards of ethical conduct for officers, employees, and consultants of the town, to provide officers and employees of the town, whether elected or appointed, paid or volunteer, with clear guidance on such standards, to promote public confidence and integrity in the agencies and administrative offices of our local government, to facilitate the consideration of potential ethical abuses before they arise, to minimize unwarranted suspicion, and to enhance the accountability of government to the people by requiring public disclosure of financial interests that may influence or be perceived to influence the actions of town officers and employees, and to provide for the fair and effective administration of this local law. Do you want to make any comments, anybody, on that before I go on with my...
No, finish it, and then I'll make a comment.
Okay. I just so much want to go into, but I won't. Okay, my qualifications to serve on the Ethics Board are as follows. 1, I grew up in Berkeley, California, and went to a private girls' school called Anna Heads. Today, it's Head Royce, as it became co-ed. I have a BA in philosophy, in ethics, actually, from the University of California, Santa Cruz, 1974. 2, my mother was a law librarian at the University of California at Berkeley on canon law. She was a better reader than I, but our discussions gave me much benefit and advantage I would like to now share by serving on the Ethics Board as a tribute to her and out of genuine concern for fellow members of Woodstock with whom I have shared company since I adopted my husband's, Joe Barton's, community, from Harmony Cafe to the food pantry run by Thurman Greco. I know up close the ethical challenges Woodstock faces and will be increasingly facing until a corruption is addressed and due process again available in the court. Joe and I have worked with many of goodwill throughout the country, and we feel as they do, and have shown in court and in economy, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We would like this light to spread, as I am certain you do too. 3, I have studied scripture all my life. I read the entire Quran in a Tibetan refugee camp in New Delhi when I was in India for 4 years. I was only in New Delhi for a couple months, but that's what I did. I read the Quran in a Tibetan refugee camp, all of the Buddhists. And I was there for 4 years and have been very familiar with the Vedas since 1978. Because I was assuming everybody else on the ethics board will probably be heavier into the Judeo-Christian thing, and so the Bible will be represented. Instead of saying 5 members from different political parties, why not have 5 members from major sources and traditions of law? Because that's really what religious scripture is. 4, serving on the ethics board would be a logical extension of my service to the community as a public access TV producer, both here in Woodstock and in Manhattan, as much of my husband's and my recent research indicates there will be many ethical challenges that need to be addressed systematically, especially regarding the CRIS report, Court Registry Investment System. 5, I am not a 14th Amendment United States citizen, but retain all my rights according to the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and thus my membership in the Freedom First Party, started by my husband years ago, is not presently registered through the corporation, the United States of America, residing in the District of Columbia, as is my right by law to contract with whomever I choose. If my making this choice is a problem with serving on the ethics board, I would be very curious why, especially in light of the above-mentioned duties of the ethics board. Therefore, if I am denied, please inform me in writing the reasons for my denial and send it to me in Woodstock at the above address where I live with my husband, Joseph Barton. Please send your reply by first-class mail and without a zip code, as I retain my rights to contract within the jurisdiction of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and not within the jurisdiction of a foreign occupier, which the corporation, the United States of America residing in the District of Columbia, clearly is and can be so proven by forensic examination. I look forward to your written reply to my offer to serve on the Ethics Board and to replace Fran Breitkopf, the Vice Chair, whose term expires the 31st of December of this year, if I am correct in assuming this is why this position is open. As I could not get more details on your website and am very eager to work together with leaders of goodwill and concern for the public welfare, of which I am certain there are many in Woodstock, albeit somewhat intimidated by a rising police state. Another issue that a courageous ethics board must address. I look forward to your reply also because I believe the concerns I have brought to your attention are also deeply your concerns too. And I actually hope I and my husband are wrong about suspicions we have of unethical conduct on the part of government leaders. Sincerely yours, Paula Gloria Tsakonas Barton.
And that's Paula offering to be on the Ethics Committee. But one of the things that's really crazy about this, it says no more than one member may be an appointed officer or employee of the town. The board elects a chairperson from among its members. Now, if the board elects a chairperson from among its members, now the board controls the Ethics Committee by electing the chairperson, and the chairperson is the person who decides what they're going to look into. So if one of the people are from the board, and the ethics board is supposed to look into ethics that have to do with the board of directors, then it doesn't seem too ethical to me. I doubt seriously that they're going to let Paula get on the ethics committee because Paula has ethics.
Well, I'm sincere in my offer. I mean, I believe, like Plato said, that if you don't attend to civic affairs, you are consenting to be ruled by evil. I don't want to be ruled by evil. And I don't want to be a complainer either. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, isn't this bad, and oh, isn't that bad, and Joe and I love to make judges' hands shake. But the more law we study, the more we understand why these hands are shaking. We want to stop the hands from shaking. We want people to be able to be in the judge's position and not say, I have to do the unethical thing and the unlawful thing, the unconstitutional thing, because the Constitution has no bearing in this court because it's a commercial court. But once you have been told that you don't want to be in a commercial court, and you don't have to be in a commercial court unless you consent to it, and you don't have to be in court at all unless you have an accuser, unless you've harmed somebody. So if you can't face your accuser, why are you there? This is so profoundly simple. So I'm saying, one way or another, I will either with all my heart and soul serve on the ethics board, or if it's the choice that I should not be serving on the ethics board, for whatever reason the ethics board doesn't want me on there, I want it in writing. Because of my earnest intent to be constructive in some of the discoveries that Joe and I are making, I am making this offer. But because it's made in such earnest, and you are saying that that position is open and it has to be to somebody who's not a Democrat or a Republican, and I'm a member of the Freedom First Party, I ask for an answer in writing and not sent to a zip code jurisdiction, which would be to a corporation. I want an answer to a human being that lives in Woodstock. Is that?
And she has a bachelor's degree in ethics. For them to turn her down with a bachelor's degree in ethics, a little strange, I think.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess what, Joe is investing more, or maybe you're being very facetious about a university education because he hung out with the guys at Rutgers, right? He got to go to classes by choice. He went into tell him how you'd go into.
Well, I just hung out at Rutgers. I was taking a lot of LSD at the time and smoking a lot of pot and hash. And I didn't want to go to college because I didn't graduate high school. But
You didn't even get into high school.
right, I didn't even get into high school. But friends of mine who were in the fraternity that I was hanging out at and partying all the time and crashing at, they used to tell me, well, this professor's given a really good lecture today. So I used to go in and a little early, and I'd say to the professor, well, I heard that you give really good lectures, and I'm not a student here, but can I sit in on the lecture? And they'd say, well, yeah, if you're not going to disrupt, you can sit in and listen to the lecture. So I spent a lot of time tripping and listening to lectures at Rutgers University, and I did it at Princeton, too.
They call it auditing.
Huh?
They call it auditing.
Auditing. I didn't know that, but
That's what I did.
It
That's
was
how
a lot-
I know.
it was a lot of fun.
Did you do a lot of that?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact.
It was good when you can just listen to lectures and not have to take a test or be responsible. You could just listen to the professor when he's talking about different subjects.
I audited a couple of radio courses, and eventually they just said, the radio station is that way.
In other words, you're saying they could see your talent, and they just
Well,
said,
if you want to put it that way,
right,
yes.
right. No, I mean, I was talking to a man I met at St. Mark's Church, and he was saying that he was an architecture student, and Frank Lloyd Wright came to speak to them. And the dean of architecture was so proud because Frank Lloyd Wright was speaking to all the architecture students. But Frank Lloyd Wright showed up really drunk, right? But he said he still entertained the students, the architecture students loved it. But the dean said I guess he wanted to be more focused, or he was embarrassed about Frank Lloyd Wright being drunk and shooting so loose from the hip. And he said, if there's one thing that you would want the architecture students to know about architecture because of you're such a great and famous person, what would that be? And Frank Lloyd Wright goes, get the hell out of architecture school.
Hi, we're your local high-speed internet and cable provider. Are you looking for a fast, reliable internet connection? a large selection of your favorite HD TV channels with 24/7 access to the best customer support technicians, all at a fair price? Fuck you. You'll take what we give you. You'll have the option of choosing from several of our completely unwarranted rip-offs, including internet speeds up to 200 times slower than Korea, at twice the price, TV packages with over 500 channels, 90% of which you can't view, and we guarantee a plethora of hidden fees. Then, our barely trained technicians will come to install your services somewhere between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., knock once while you're in the shower, and promptly leave. And once we do finally get your service up and running, it'll be down and limping within 3 hours. Indefinitely. Why, you ask? Simple. We are part of what is called an oligopoly. It's like a monopoly, only legal. See, in closed-door meetings with 4 or 5 of the other major providers, we've secretly agreed not to have differing prices, allowing us to completely eliminate any competition and collectively raise our prices to optimum cockbag levels. Because we here at your local high-speed internet and cable provider don't believe in customer satisfaction. We believe in money. Pools of money. Looking for a better deal? You can all gobble down our balls. You're paying for it. Your local high-speed internet and cable provider. You won't like it, and there's no other option.
Gotta love them.
Yeah. So there's a man, Frank Lloyd Wright, and I remember an expression that he said was, the only thing more scared than $1 million is $2 million. And I didn't understand that really until I started to understand the bank fraud and how people, want to go along with things. Like Randy and Joe were saying what they learned from auditing. Just by auditing, Randy right away went into radio broadcast. She didn't have to go through all the other stuff. But and Joe, he just got to cruise and hang out and go to things that he wanted, and he found his direction in life with the religion was called Seekers of Truth.
Yeah, Seekers of Truth.
Talk about that.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Truth seekers.
Well, what I'm saying is when you're not compelled to learn
I started a
something.
religion called the Seekers of Truth,
Love it.
Yeah.
based on marijuana and LSD.
I think a lot of people are still carrying it on.
Yeah.
Even if they don't call it that.
Right, but why should our religion have to go underground? Our religion. I'm adopting my husband's religion. It wasn't my path for many years. But, when I started to see the cancer study and the patents and so on. Now, what was I talking about right before that?
The Woodstock Ethics Board.
No, but I had another thought. Oh, yeah, when you learn without being compelled to learn, that's when you learn the best. That's when it goes the deepest. And even, who's the guy, Bates, who wrote, I keep mixing up Gregory Bateson because he was at my college at UC Santa Cruz with William Bates. Was it Better Eyesight Without Glasses? The man who taught people how to read without glasses. What he said is that when you're relaxed, you see better. And he also said, when you see better, you're more relaxed. So that means the more relaxed the mind is, the better the eyes see. But the better the eyes pick up and inform the brain, the more relaxed you are. And this was the basis of how he healed. So the basis of learning will be the same. If you're relaxed, that you're not having to take a test, then you're going to learn better. Now, I would think that one of the reasons we get this type of education of constant testing, and it's not about competition, and then they go that the free market's not a good thing. A certain amount of competition is healthy when it's consensual. But when you have this endless testing, pretty soon you begin to know what the tester likes and doesn't like. And what the tester likes or doesn't like may not have anything to do with reality or even with your oath of office, which is to serve and protect the people. Your subtle messages that you're getting from above is that you should be screwing the people. And that's why you need an ethics board. Because wouldn't you say that temptation is just so much there? When the founding fathers first set it up, didn't John Adams say, now we need the belligerent claimants, or people would have to constantly protect the Constitution?
Well, the Supreme Court has ruled that in order to get your rights as a sovereign in this country, you have to go into court as the belligerent claimant. And you're claiming your rights belligerently. That means you're standing up and fighting in court. And that's the only way that you can preserve your rights. If you get a lawyer, you've already given up your rights, and the minute you get a lawyer, you become a ward of the court. Because the way our law works, if you're not capable of speaking for yourself and someone else has to speak for you, it's just as if you were a crazy person in a nut house and not capable of speaking for yourself in a court case. So then they have to appoint a lawyer to speak for you. Now that lawyer and the prosecutor and the judge all get together in a little huddle and decide what they're going to do with the ward of the court. Whenever you get a lawyer, you are automatically considered a ward. You've given up your rights, your sovereignty as a sovereign person, and now as a ward of the court and the prosecutor and your lawyer can decide what to do with you. But the way our country, the way the Supreme Court has ruled that only a belligerent claimant can preserve their rights. So when you go into court, you have to go in and be willing to argue. If the prosecutor is saying you are guilty of something, you have to be willing to go in there and say, I'm not guilty of this. I refuse to put in first of all, you refuse to put in a plea of guilty or not guilty, because once you put in a plea, you're already starting the case in motion. What you have to say is, I don't stand under these charges. This court has no jurisdiction over me, a sovereign. Now, I've done that a bunch, and I've managed to keep myself out of jail. But our courts right now, from Woodstock to Kingston in this county, are all criminal operations. They're only there to shake down the people, to fine you or profit from you, or when they put you in jail, they are putting you in as a slave, and they're profiting from you in so many ways. We've done many shows on this. I hope that you people have seen those shows, because I don't want to go into a long explanation about it. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Why do you think that if the Supreme Court says to preserve your rights, you have to be the belligerent claimant? Why doesn't the Supreme Court just say these guys are criminals? Why doesn't the Supreme Court do that?
Well, because even the Supreme Court is corrupt.
And yet they squeaked out that ruling about being the belligerent claimant. So it seems like they hold on to some threads.
No, there's certain level at the Supreme Court. There's certain lines. I won't say they don't cross them, because they do. They have crossed them, but to cross too far, everybody sees the scam. So they have to preserve a certain appearance of constitutionality. So, and what they said, they know that so much corruption is going on in the courts. In order to protect the courts, what they did was they said, all the people that are in jail, and they know, the Supreme Court knows that those people are not in jail lawfully. Legal and lawful are different. Lawfully, right? Are because they consent. And the Supreme Court has ruled a bunch of times that 90% of the people in jail are there by consent. But they're tricked into consent. When you go into court, if you don't dispute what they say, then it's assumed or presumed that you consent. So if you go into court and the prosecutor's saying, well, he violated this statute and that law and this statute, if you don't say, wait a minute, I don't recognize that statute, and that statute's unconstitutional, if you don't challenge everything they say, then it's presumed, because you didn't challenge it, that you accepted it and that you consented. So 90% of the people in jail were tricked into consenting without being aware that they were consenting. And the Supreme Court, instead of saying that fraud was committed and these people were tricked, because otherwise they would have to they would have to go against almost all the courts below them. It's like, it's a criminal operation from the bottom to the top.
Right. The economy is so invested with it. But on the county level, you can see what's happening, and that's what I'm saying about the ethics board. However they decide to deal with me, whether I'm invited or, I don't know, would you say invited if you're offering? No, they threw it open to the public. They said, we are inviting people to apply for a seat on the ethics board. You can't be a Democrat and you can't be a Republican. So that's why I, came up and said that I would like to do these things. But I'm so sincere because the Chris report will show how much money is made from each person that's indicted in the Woodstock court system. This court system has an agreement with the town. Now, when the town says they make $40,000 a year from this, you think, well, that's $40,000 a year less that the taxpayers have. But let's get real. What are people paying for property taxes? If you start calculating how many, what percentage of a court should be giving revenues to a town when no harmed party has called that court into reality, as compared to the property tax. I mean, there's so many ways of looking at this monster, but no matter how you look at it, the solution is very simple. It just boils down to understanding who you are and what are the rules that you play by, and disclose those rules. Then people can decide whether they want to engage with you or not. But when you pretend one thing and you actually do something else, what that's going to do is hemorrhage away your lifeblood. The lifeblood of a good functioning government should be confidence from the people, not always manipulating and twisting things to sort of give the veneer and the appearance that all is well, when they know directly in their, not even in their heart of hearts, it's as superficial as the paycheck and the pocketbook and the foreclosures and the food pantry. If people are annoyed at Thurman Greco because of the churches in the area, what I'm going to say is to the churches in the area, you wouldn't need a Thurman Greco coming into town to take over a food pantry, because the poverty and the hunger wouldn't have been that great. But why have you churches let it get to this point? Because if you would address the source of that hunger, which is monopoly and court rulings where due process doesn't come about, you get this kind of strip mall monoculture thing. Or the other competing thing is shops that have to be paying such exorbitant rent that their merchandise is shoddy, and then the whole town starts to cheapen and it starts to decline, and you don't have real art, you don't have real culture and real musical events. We started to really get something going at Harmony Cafe. We had Fantuzzi come in, and we could bring great musicians, because how many musicians are most harmed by the marijuana laws? And also in terms of the medical marijuana direction, where there's apology after apology for getting high. What if getting high is part of the healing? And why be saying this getting high is relegated to a class that's so oppressed, the musician and the artist class, and yet that's the class that you prey on and you scam off of, stealing the traffic when it gets on the internet, breaking the links, doing all the things that Randy is so rightfully fearful of doing, because pretty soon with just a delete button and a click, somebody's whole life files are just zipped away. And those life files could have been very important for the younger generation to understand what really were the challenges of this generation. I mean, it was said, when we were back in the hippie days, and even though I was just a college kid in a uniform, we were so moved by the music, and people knew that the Jefferson Airplane was over at Golden Gate Park, and you wanted to grow throw up and so bad. I mean, I was so happy on graduation day. We're all in our long white gowns and some girls are crying and I'm going, I'm graduating. And believe me, I loved high school. And I was out of high school for half a year because I was in a body cast because I had 10 vertebrae fused and 2 metal rods put in my back. So when this happened, my best friend got into a whole lot of, awful scene in Haight-Ashbury, and because of that, it created a huge stigma against drugs for many years. But still, when I graduated, I was so happy. And I want to tell you, that enthusiasm is still with me today. And when I was helping Joe to record his book, and he was talking about what the hippies were believing, the age of enlightenment was going to come, he said he still believed it.
I still believe it now.
And that's why we're doing this. We still believe it. I mean, do you still believe it, Randy?
I don't know. I'm trying to keep the faith, but sometimes with things like have happened today in Boston and what you were showing with the chemtrails before and the hydrofracking and the smart meters, so-called, and the genetically modified foods with companies that just get away with it, it kind of gets hard after a while to keep, to keep your optimism. But
Well, maybe you have to stop seeking the blessings of this District of Columbia Corporation.
You notice the term, the darkest hour always comes before the dawn. It's like the shit is hitting the fan. Pretty soon, the American people are not going to be able to keep their heads buried in the sand. They're going to have to stop being sheep because their asses are on the line. And then we're going to start seeing change. Like 14.5 million families have been thrown out by the banking. When you see all the criminal stuff that's been going on, I mean, on every kind of level, the major players, the big bankers and the big money that are just feeding off the people, and not just in our country, in every country of the world. Look how many countries we have made war on since the end of World War II. After World War II, we had the Korean War. Then we had the Vietnam War. And we've had war ever since. As soon as that one war is over, they find some reason to start another war so that they can keep the American people in a perpetual state of fear. That's all the media, like during the 9/11 thing. How many times did these guys say terrorism, 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 just to keep the American people in a state of fear so that they could promote another war? It's time for the American people to wake up that the media is just about promoting fear.
they were doing it today in Boston.
Right, and I don't know what happened in Boston, but I would bet that our government is behind it. Our government has been behind most of this stuff. Look what they did at Waco. Look what they did at Ruby Ridge.
That's what I'm saying, let's be the government. I'm making this offer. I'm saying let's start here in Woodstock. Let's also take a look at county-wide public access because we need to communicate with each other and we're going to need to be able to communicate fast because there's a disease upon the land, right?
That's what I was saying. But unless the American people really start getting active, most of you people out there, you're just worried about your job or getting the kids off to school, and you're not thinking of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is they're radiating you with these cell towers. They're radiating you with smart meters. They're injecting your kids with vaccines that have all kinds of poisons in them.
Thimerosal.
Right. And
mercury-based preservative.
Right. And, next to getting high-level doses of radiation inside your system, mercury is one of the most deadly poisons, and they're injecting it in your children. You're so busy worried about your job and going to school that you're not looking at the bigger picture. Right now, just like we just showed on this show, they're spraying chemicals all over Ulster County. We showed those pictures of the chemtrails just now, and the biggest clouds of the chemtrails were right here over Woodstock. How many of you people in Woodstock even noticed it? How many of you people in Woodstock are going to call up the local politicians and say, why are they spraying these chemicals over us? What is going on? We want our politicians to find out that it's their job to look into these things. And how many of you people there actually go to the town board meetings? Very few. We were there, and there wasn't more than maybe 15 people there. And if the whole town turned out and started demanding change, for example, Woodstock has basically 3,000 residents full-time here, and from what I've heard, we have 20 police cars. And why does Woodstock need so many police? And why, I'll tell you why they need so many police, because the local court here is bringing in money for the town. So what they're doing is they're giving out lots of tickets or finding reasons to arrest people and fine them, and then all that money the judge gets all these judges get a percentage of the money that they're taking in, and the police get a percentage of the money that they're taking in, and then the money that's left over goes to the town board to decide what they're going to do with it, and they can find their pet projects, or their cousin who wants to put in a sidewalk, so they can hire him, or some other contractor that they can hire. And meantime, your taxes just keep going up, and you're paying for police to give you tickets so that they can keep picking your pockets. Why does Woodstock, a small town like this, need so many police? And why, when my son got a ticket and we went with him to court here in Woodstock, and the whole courthouse was full of people paying tickets, and all the police were lined up, and they talked to you, well, maybe we'll drop this down a little bit. We'll stop it from being a moving violation if you consent to a lesser ticket, and you're right away going, oh, okay, I'll do that because I pay less. If you're being stolen from on a big level, why do you accept, well, okay, I'll accept that you're going to steal from me a little less. How about you say, I don't accept you stealing from me at all?
And I don't
Time to
accept
wake
you-
up.
And I don't accept you making an industry out of theft. Isn't that what you were brought up to do, the right thing? You know, not to be stealing, and if somebody's stealing, that you tell the teacher. But maybe that's it. There's no teacher to tell anymore. Maybe we have to check in with ourselves and with each other. And that's what I'm saying. When I move through the Supreme Court and I go here in the town of Woodstock, you know, the offices, the human beings are fine. But in your line of work, there will be moments where you're going to have to make decisions. And those decisions is going to determine the freedom of your fellow men and women in the community.
And the message that we've been trying to push to you people out there in Woodstock and even down in New York City, I don't think we're going to play this show down in New York City, but it's time for you people all to get involved. If you don't get involved, you're going to be the ones that suffer. Not even you, your children.
Yeah.
4 minutes to go. Okay, I'll let you rep for the next 4 minutes.
I don't know if I could do 4 minutes, but I don't know. I think I would like to play this in Manhattan because, you know, what you want to see is the common theme. You've got a very small place like Woodstock, and you've got a big place like Manhattan. Purportedly, Manhattan Neighborhood Network is going out to 600,000 people, 600,000 households. I'm not sure how that's measured. Now, obviously, Manhattan is its own particular beast, but there's so many wonderful things about Manhattan, about, say, the neighborhood of Gramercy Park. What's going on there with the National Arts Club and the Players Club has a lot of significance to the banking fraud, because the top floor of the Players Club were the quarters of Edwin Booth. And now Edwin Booth was the brother of John Wilkes Booth, the man who shot Lincoln, and some claim lived in retirement in England for having been the henchman for the bankers. Now this top floor is kept completely intact. It hasn't changed since the day this guy died, the brother of the guy who shot Lincoln. Now, you can't tell me there's not some big story there. I saw that room. I was sitting in Gramercy Park, and some nice, older, good-looking guy, kind of a little older than me, decided that since I was in the park, I'm from Gramercy Park, he took me up and I saw the quarters. It gave me a very creepy feeling at the time. I'd never seen something kept exactly as it was since 1890 whatever. Now this may be a top secret, I don't know if, maybe there were rumors about the top floor, but now that I've seen it and that John Martello had offered that he would make the facility available free because I didn't have any money for Eustace Mullins to speak. And had Eustace Mullins, who's the writer of the Secrets of the Federal Reserve and the only approved biography of Ezra Pound, he was the biographer, wrote the book This Difficult Individual. Thank God John Martello made that offer. And had he lived long enough, there would have been, I think, Eustace Mullins would have given a world-changing discussion at the Players Club about his whole life's work, which was about the banking fraud. Eustace spent the night with me and Jesse Lee, who got him out of a nursing home and off of heavy medication, and got 2 more years so Eustace Mullins could travel around and teach the last years of his life. I think I'd like to teach the last years of mine.
Yeah, and I think right now it's back to you people out there in Woodstock should get involved locally and really start paying attention to what's going on. We're going to be doing the show here at the community center on the smart meters. You should come. We're going to be doing a show here on genetically modified seeds and Monsanto.
Oh, in Kingston. Come to Kingston the 18th.
Yeah, you want to announce that, Randy? You know
Yeah,
the
go out
facts
on
that.
Kingston. Don't
Yeah,
leave
well, there
until
is
you
a
know.
Public Service Commission hearing regarding the takeover or the buyout of Central Hudson by Fortis of Canada, which is rumored to have a lot of Chinese money behind it, and that's the 18th at Kingston City Hall, and I don't have all the other information, but it's at 7 o'clock at Kingston City Hall on Broadway.
Okay,
And that's basically it.
we're gonna say goodnight from Pot Talk TV here, and we'll be back next week, same time, same channel, hoping that maybe the cameras will be working.
We got 2 tonight.
That's right. You've been watching Pot Talk 2013, starring Joe Barton. Also starring Paula Gloria. Be sure to tune in next week at this same time on this same channel, if our cameras are still working, for more Pot Talk TV. Pot Talk TV is a Manifestation production.